Alright, hello, welcome Algebra 2 students. This video is going to cover section 3.3, solving a system of inequalities. Alright, so far what we've done is solve a system of two equations. Right, we're at equal sign here, and then all that changes in section 3.3 is now they're inequality symbols, and we're only going to have one method. So previously, when we solved the system of equations, we had these three different methods, one of which was graphing. Right, basically you just graphed them and figured out where they crossed. All right, and so the only method we're going to have for inequalities is this graph method. Right, so we're going to be graphing again, but it's going to look a little different because it's inequalities this time instead of equations. All right, so for taking notes today, basically we're just going to do a bunch of examples, and I really think it would help to have some graph paper. Right, you can either draw a bunch of grids like this or have graph paper handy. All right, and we're going to get right at it. So here's our first example for your notes. And basically, we're just going to graph these two inequalities. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of this. I'm going to do them in different colors here. I'll do this one on the right first in purple. And maybe, you can try it on your own, actually. If you feel comfortable, try it. If not, you can kind of watch this example. All right, but we're basically going to graph a line. All right, so the idea on inequalities, you're going to graph a line. It'll either be, make a little chart here. Maybe I'll make an extra slide for this. So when you graph, if it has an equals to on it, you're going to graph a solid line. All right, and then if there is no equal to on it, you're going to graph a dashed line. Okay, and then you're going to either shade above or below that line depending on if the inequality symbol is facing y. Right, then we're going to be above. And I think of it basically because in this case, y is big. The mouth is eating y, so y is some big number. So it makes sense that we would shade above our line in that case because y is something big. Okay, and then the other one is if y is less than or equal to some quantity, then we go below that line because y is a little value. Okay, so I don't know if you want to put those little things in your notes, but it might be kind of helpful. All right, so back to our question. So graphing a line, it's just the mx plus b deal. So our y-intercept is at 1, and then our slope is negative 1/2. So we're going to go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. Okay, and before I draw my line here, I want to make sure, is this a solid or dashed line? And on this one, because there's an equal to, I'm going to draw a solid line. And now I'm going to shade, and on this particular one, it's facing y, so y is big, which means you want to shade up here above. And if you're doing this on your paper, just lightly shade and you'll see y in a minute. Okay, so next one to graph, I'm going to grab a different color here. Maybe we'll do this one in black. Okay, and so to graph, oh, that looks like red. Let's see if we can get it to black. All right, so to get this one, we've got to get it in y equals form first. So minus 2x from both sides. And then divide by negative 1 to get y alone. And on this one, you're going to switch directions on the inequality sign because we divided by negative. Anytime you multiply or divide by negative, you switch the inequality sign. All right, so now graphing, we're going to start at 3 and have a slope of 2. So up 2 over 2, and I'm going to draw the line. This one's going to be a solid line again because of the equal to. Okay, and now we are going to shade below that line because we have y less than or equal to, so y is little here, so we shade below. And again, I would lightly shade on your computer. Okay, and so where are our answers, right? I think that's kind of the interesting part here is now, look, now that we've graphed it and shaded, we have two graphs, but where do you think the answers are? Okay, hopefully you have a chance to think about it. But where they are is where their shading overlaps. So we are going below the black line and above the purple line. Okay, so that's going to be, I'm going to have a hard time drawing this, but that's going to be this region up here, which I'm going to make a mess in red. Right, so that's why I say kind of lightly shade and then darken in where their shading overlaps because that red is our answers. Right, those are our solutions. Those are the xy pairs that work for both of these inequalities. Right, so if we wanted to list one, maybe I'll try and get another color here. Right, one solution, there'd be infinitely many, but that one would be x1, y2. Right, we could pick another one out here. That would be x4 and y1. And all that means is if you put those numbers into these inequalities, it would make true statements. Right, and there'd be infinite. There's infinite points out here, so there's infinite solutions to these systems. And I guess there could be no solutions, but most of the time it'll be infinite. Okay, second example for you. This one is special cases because it just has x and y. So they're either going to be vertical or horizontal lines. Give them a shot and then unpause the video. All right, here we go. So the y equals line is a little weird because the y-axis goes horizontally up and down, but a y equals line is actually vertical. So this line is going to be 4 on the y-axis and then be, sorry, did I say that backwards? The y-axis goes vertically and this line is actually horizontally. But I kind of think of it as it's y of 4, and then you go this way. And all along that line, y is equal to 4. I kind of got lucky. That should be a solid line because it's equal to. And then this says y greater than, so we know that it's going to be the numbers up here. So sometimes I just draw little arrows instead of actually shading to say I'm going to shade above that line. Make a little note over here. This one's going to be above. Okay, second one is an x equals, right? And so that one's going to go vertically, and it's going to be at -1 for x. And now we're going to have a dashed line because there's no equal to here. So I'm going to draw a dashed line vertically through -1. Okay, and all that's left now is to shade. So this one, x is less than -1. So that means I'm going to go this direction. I'm worse off than -1, like -2, -3 and stuff. And again, I just got to identify where they overlap. So in this case, it's going to be above the green line and right of the red line. So draw your pictures carefully here because sometimes students do have a hard time figuring out where the overlap is. But that's it right there. Okay, and again, those are our solutions. Okay, and again, if we want to list some just to be exact, we could go like -4x, and then y has to be greater than or equal to 4, so something like 5. That would be the point right there. Sorry, that's hard to see, right? But maybe, I don't know, -2, and then 6 or something. That would be a solution way up here. All right, so that does it for our second example. Just a couple more here, make sure we got it. All right, so it's just different shapes. So again, write these two down. Hopefully you got a sense of it now. Maybe you can graph one, maybe you can graph both, but try them out. See if you can find where they overlap and then unpause the video. All right, so y less than 4 is going to be a horizontal line through 4, and we're going to shade below it because we're less than that. So it's a dashed line. We're going to shade below, and again, I'm just going to use these little arrows. Otherwise, my graphs get kind of messy. Eventually, we're going to be graphing more than just two inequalities, so it's good to kind of be able to organize it. So try not to make a mess too much. All right, let's do magic green color here. So what's different here is this one is absolute value. So we're just going to shift the parent, right? So a quick review of all that is this k number here goes up or down. The h goes left or right, opposite of what we think. Okay, and then on these, a is pretty much your slope. Right? Technically, it's a stretch or compress, but basically it's going to be our slope. So sorry that's really messy, but at any rate, this number here is going to make us go not left 2, but right 2. So our vertex is going to be over here, and then instead of having a normal 1-to-1 slope, this one's going to have a 3-to-1 slope because of that 3. So I'm going to go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, both directions, going up, right? And we get this sort of V shape. All right, and now the mouth is eating Y, is facing Y. So we're going to be above that. So we're going to be above the V, or kind of inside the V, I guess, would be another way to think of it. Okay, and so they're overlapping. See if you can figure it out here. Below the purple line and above the green, right? Hopefully you recognize that it's going to be this tasty pizza slice right here. So in between those lines, that's where our answers are going to fall. So still infinite choices. There's still infinite little dots in here, but they're bounded by these regions here, so we get kind of like a triangle looking shape. All right, one final one for you to try. They're all pretty much the same. You just got to watch for like the different lines, right? You might get a line, you might get a V, you might get a horizontal line, vertical line. So you just got to know how to graph all those different things, and then make sure you know where the shading are. All right, so pause this one, give it a shot, and then I'll be back with you. All right, so first one's just a regular line. It's not a v, it's not an inequality. Sorry, not an absolute value. It's just a regular line. So it's going to start at 1 and have a slope of 1. So up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. Before I draw my line, I'm going to think, all right, I need a dashed line here. There's no equal to, so I'm just going to draw in a dashed line. Okay, and then I got to think about shading. So it's facing away from y. So it means y is something little. So we're going to go down below this line. I'm going to make some arrows. Again, when I do this, I kind of lightly shade and then figure out where the shading of the two overlap. All right, second one, we're going to use red Christmas colors here. So this is going to be a V. And again, it's just going to shift from our regular 0, 0 spot. So this is going to go right 3 and up 2. So I'm going to go right 3 and up 2. I'm going to draw my dot for my V there. And then there's nothing really here, so our slope is just 1 to 1. So we're going to draw the regular V going up 1 to 1, right? Kind of in both directions from our starting point. Okay, and so now just draw in the lines from there, and it's going to be dashed lines again. One quick note I get asked about when graphing this, by the way, that some people think this right 3 up 2 is the slope, but that's not really, that's just how you move the vertex of the absolute value. So our vertex moves right 3 up 2, but then our slope is this number here, which is invisible 1 to 1. And so from that vertex, then you go your 1 to 1. So once I have that plotted, then I go up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. So the slope is 1. Even though this seems like a slope, it's really not the slope. It's where do you put the vertex. All right. At any rate, from there, I got to finish my shading here. So for the red line, I'm below, let's see, I'm below it again, I believe. Yep, because I'm underneath it. Okay, so now I got to figure out where they overlap. And it would seem like they would overlap between them here, but this region here is not below the red line. So I got to be below both of them. So it's going to be kind of a weird region. I'll see if I can highlight it here. I'm just going to go like this and then have a jagged edge. So it's all this stuff down here that's below both of them would be the solutions to this system. All right, hopefully that helps. Homework should be a lot of these graphs. And again, there's infinite answers. This is solving a system of inequalities, and the answers are where they overlap, and there's usually infinite. Sometimes there can be no solutions, but for the most part, you'll get infinite. All right, I think that's it. Good luck with the homework. Let me know if you have any questions.